Welcome students, I am Nisha Mudgal and today we will be discussing the proven strategies that will propel you in achieving 90% and beyond in your maths examination. So let's get ready to learn some useful tips and tricks to get the most out of your exam prep that you are doing right now. The highlights of today's video will be, we will discuss about the roadmap and strategy to prepare for board exam 2024. We'll discuss how to attempt examination and score 90% plus. We would be discussing on the paper design and the course structure in grade 12. We will discuss the latest sample paper issued by CBSE. We'll be having a thorough discussion of the specimen or the sample paper that is issued by CBSE, and we will have some guidance on stress or time management. So let's get started. The first one is the roadmap or the strategy to score 90 plus and how to prepare for the board examination 2024. You see here the first one is make. The first step is make, where you make sure that you have solved NCERT at least completely. I know that many of you might be practicing a lot of questions from the other reference books, right? So we are not asking you to not to practice from the reference books. We are just advising you to practice NCERT completely. Those reference books are really good and gives you a good practice, but the base of your preparation should be NCERT. We have seen students who are unable to solve multiple questions of NCERT and still are referring to other books for practicing in the paper. So it's better that you solve NCERT completely. There is nothing out of NCERT that would be asked in the examinations. The second step is solve. Solve all examples given in NCERT. So when I say solve all examples in NCERT, you know, when we start solving the NCERT initially, in the initial stage we go through the examples, we read the solutions, we see how to approach to the problem through those examples, and then we also learn then how to write the solutions, how to write the steps and the formulas, right? But it is the last stage when you are preparing for your final board exams. In that stage, what you should do is you should solve all the NCERT examples by writing without having a look at the solution. Examples do come up in the CBSE examinations. The next stage is prepare. Prepare notes of your own which will help you in the last minute preparation. You know, maybe a formula notebook, or I may suggest the synopsis of the chapters. So you can make a summary of the chapter in your own handwriting, in your own language, that would help you in the last minute preparation. Last minute means a day before the exam or in the last month of the exam when you are finally preparing for the maths exam. The next is analyze. Analyze what you have already covered and what needs to be covered. You know, there are times when you think that yes, this topic is difficult, or this question is difficult, or this is easy. I will do this later on, but you don't make a note of it. It is really necessary that you make a note of what you are leaving to do at last. Sometimes you might forget it, and then may regret in exam when it comes up that I might have revised it. So start noting down what you are leaving for the last minute. Next is practice. Solve maximum number of sample papers. You know, sample papers are just for your practice. Do a lot of practice through sample papers, but the base of your preparation is NCERT only, right? Do not depend completely on the sample papers that are there in the market. Do practice from NCERT as well. Next is do a quick revision of all the topics by solving the tricky questions. Okay, here this word tricky questions. When I say tricky question, I mean to say these are those questions which when you were solving it for the first time, you were unable to do them. So whenever there comes up a question which you are not able to solve in the first time or in the first attempt, you mark that question, and before going for the examination, you go through those questions, try to solve at least those questions. That will really help you. The last one is develop. So in this you need to develop a habit of setting time for different questions, like for 1 marks, 2 marks, 3 marks, 4 marks or 5 marks. You set a time period for the questions, not just the 3 hours for the complete paper, but particular questions also. I mean to say different number of questions, like 2 marks, 1 marks, question carrying different marks. You should set a time for those questions as well. That will help you in completing the paper on time. The next is how to attempt examination and score 90% plus. So there are few points that are written here and we will be going through each point and understand the importance of it. The first one is time management. Use the allotted reading time to analyze the questions properly. The allotted reading time given to you is 15 minutes. In those 15 minutes, it's best that you strategize which questions you will be attempting first and which questions you will be attempting later on. Try to go through the whole paper thoroughly in those 15 minutes and prioritize your attempts. See which are the questions and how do you prioritize your attempts. See, there will be few questions which you have already attempted, the same exact questions. Some would be similar questions, same type of questions that you have solved and you exactly know how to write them down, how to solve them. So prioritize those questions to be attempted first and the others later on. The next step is try to solve the easy and familiar questions first that I have just explained. The next is carefully read the directions. Carefully read the directions given for each question. When I say directions, you need to see what is exactly given in the question, what you need to calculate, what the question is trying to ask from you, right? Conceptualize the answer before you start writing. You need to conceptualize, that means you need to frame the steps in your mind, how you are going to solve this question, what you are going to write, what formulas are required. Draw diagrams wherever needed. You need to draw the diagrams wherever they are needed. In the questions where you have a certain geometrical part wherein you can draw the diagrams, that will help in easily solving the questions. Write the formulas and all the steps clearly in every solution. You know we have stepwise marking in mathematics. We follow a particular marking scheme. So yes, you have to write down all the steps, all the formulas that are used in the solution. Next is rounding off to be done carefully. When we say rounding off to be done carefully, I mean to say that you need to write down the answer in case of decimals by rounding it off up to 2 digits only, and that would work. You don't have to solve it for 3 to 4 digits. After decimal till 2 digits you can write down the answer, and you need to mention the units for area, volume, whatever is required. You lose mark if you do not write the units and formulas. Next is do not leave any question unattempted. Attempt all the questions. Do not leave any question unattempted. You know there will be questions that you do not know what the solution would be and how you would attempt. But you know what formula is to be used. You might not know few variables whose values are given in the question, but you are unable to identify. But you know the formula. Write down that formula. Last is revise and check your answers at the end. Try to complete your paper on time and check your answers at the end. Make sure you complete it on time and you have enough time to check your answers at last. Now we have the course structure. In this you see we have these 6 units in our maths book. The first one is relation and functions. Okay. In this, which chapters do we have in relation and functions? We have relation functions and inverse trigonometry, right? We have inverse trigonometry. Then in the algebra, what do we have in algebra? In algebra you have your matrices, you have determinants, right? In the third unit we have calculus. What all chapters are included in the calculus? In calculus we have continuity and differentiability, right? We have application of derivatives, we have integrals, and we have application of integrals, right? We have one more chapter which is differential equations. So these are the chapters which are included in calculus. Then we have vectors and three-dimensional geometry. These are the 2 chapters in 1 unit. Then linear programming we have, and we have the probability. Each unit we have marks. See here, of the unit first, which has relation function and inverse trigonometry, the marks are 8. These are unit-wise marks. That means in these chapters, out of these 2 chapters, you will get 8 mark questions. It can happen that 4 mark questions are coming from this and 4 marks are coming from this, or another combination of 5 marks and 3 marks from this, and so on. Then we have 10 marks for algebra, which is matrices and determinants. We have 35 marks for calculus, which includes 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 chapters. We have 14 marks for vectors and 3-dimensional geometry. We have linear programming for 5 marks. We have probability for 8 marks. Now, we'll try to see the instructions that are given when you start attempting the paper. These are the instructions that you will see on the question paper. It says it has 5 sections, A, B, C, D and E. Each section is compulsory. However, there are internal choices in the question. So, whenever there are internal choices, you need to make the choice smartly. Section A will have 18 MCQ and 2 assertion reason based questions of 1 mark each. So, there are total 20 questions, 20 marks, 1 mark each. We have section B that has 5 very short answer questions, and each question will be of 2 marks. Section C has 6 short answer type questions and it will have 3 marks. Section D, we have 4 long answer questions of 5 marks each. And in section E, we have 3 case study based questions in mathematics. Each will be carrying 4 marks. Right? Now we will be discussing section wise division of marks. In section A, we have 20 questions. Okay, of 20 marks. There is no internal choice in any question. You have to attempt all the questions, they are compulsory. We have section B, which is having 5 questions, each question 2 marks, so 10 marks this section has. And it will have these 5 questions, out of 5 you will have 2 questions in which you will have internal choices. Then section C, you have 6 questions, each carrying 3 marks, and out of 6 in 3 questions you will be getting internal choice. So, it is 6 into 3, 18 marks, right. Next we have section D, which is having 4 questions of 5 marks each, that means 20 marks, and out of 4 questions in 2 questions you get internal choice. The last is section E, in which you get case study based questions. Those are 3 questions, 4 marks. Okay. In the case study question, each question you have 3 questions, 3 subparts I would say, which will be of 1 mark and the last one would be of 2 marks. In the 2 marks, you will have an option, an internal choice we would say. So, it is 4 into 3, that is 12 marks. So, this comprises of total 80 marks. We have done the analysis of the sample paper provided by CBSE, and this is what comes out of it. So, this is the chapter wise weightage that we have analyzed the CBSE paper and come up with. This will not be the exact weightage that you will get in your final exam. It might differ by 2 to 3 marks. Okay. So, you see in relation and function you have 1 question of 1 mark and you have 1 question of 5 marks. In the 5 mark question you will get an option, or I say you will get a choice. So, in or you will have another question that you will have to attempt. Okay. So, it is of 6 marks. Then you see inverse trigonometry question, you will get a 2 mark question from it. In that you will have an internal choice. So, it is for 2 marks. So, like this we have shown you all the chapters and their division. What sort of questions, what mark questions from each chapter you will get, that we have divided. This is as per the CBSE sample paper that we have received. So, now we have discussed a lot of points, a lot of instructions that we should take care of while preparing for a maths exam. There are few points that we should avoid, there are few things that we should avoid doing during our preparation and attempting the maths exam. which are written here. The first one is, do not ever try to cram the processes involved in the solution of a mathematical problem. Do not ever try to cram the solutions. Whenever you try to do that, there are a lot of solutions. It will create confusion. It will all be a mess for you. So it is better that you focus on understanding the logic. Do not pressurize yourself by studying unfamiliar topics in the last moment. Suppose there are few topics that you do not know how to attempt questions on those and what the concept is. They are unfamiliar to you. Do not pressurize yourself to do that in the last minute preparation of your exam. It's better to practice the ones that you know better. Do not study irrelevant topics. So this is of utmost importance. Do not study the topics that are deleted from the syllabus. Go through the reduced syllabus. Practice only the part that is coming up in the exams. It is good to have knowledge of all the concepts that are there. But for exam preparation, we will only focus on the relevant part. Do not solve decades old questions paper as the paper pattern keeps on changing. You know, we have multiple changes in the paper pattern, though the questions or the sample papers which are there in the last 10 years, they might have important questions in them, right? The important questions that gets repeated in CBSE, but as the paper pattern keeps changing, it is advised that you practice from the pattern which is actually going to come up in your exam. Next is, do not depend completely on the sample papers. They are just for your practice. Your base of preparation should be NCERT. Do not revise all the chapters in one day. Make a proper timetable. Do not stress yourself. Sleep well and attempt the exam with a fresh mind. Do not just wake up the whole night one day before the exam. Okay? Try to complete the syllabus on time. Sleep well and give the paper, attempt the paper with a fresh mind. So that is all from my side. Thank you so much and all the best. Attempt the paper in the best way possible.